Todd Stokes with Baker Tilly. I'm here with Gary Rappaport of Rappaport, and we're going to learn a little bit about you, Gary, to start with. So tell us, you're originally from New York, correct?
I was born in Brooklyn and moved out to Long Island when I was 2 years old. Went to Syracuse, graduated in 1971. My dad was a tie manufacturer with his brother, and I grew up in the garment business, working in a factory since I was 13 years old. Learning about top centers and French fronts and darts and yokes and everything about fashion. Thought I was going to go in that business for the rest of my life. Graduated Syracuse in 1971 with a degree in finance and felt I was going to go right back into the business with my father and my uncle. In fact, I never met anyone in the real estate business until I was in college. And my first wife was from Washington, D.C. And her father wanted his only daughter to come back to Washington. And while I loved working in the garment business, I said, as I talk about models, I just think it was the wrong model. It was very risky for the return that was obtained, and I lived through those stresses with my father over my younger part of my life, and I said, if there's an opportunity to come to Washington and go in a different type of business, I think I'd like to do that. And I had the opportunity to do that, and I came to Washington in 1972. I somehow always felt that real estate as a long-term investment would be one of the ways to create long-term assets and stability for one's family. But coming into retail, people ask, how do you get into retail? And there's so many different roads one can go down, especially when one doesn't know anything about real estate until one gets to college. But coming to Washington, my ex-father-in-law was a retailer, and he was a shopping center developer. But I did not want to work for him, but I was willing to come to Washington. So I had an opportunity to open a home building business with another partner called Parr Construction, Powell and Rappaport. And we opened that and started building homes in 1973. And from 1973 to 1981, I built about 400 single-family and townhouse homes, primarily in Fairfax County. But the model was wrong, because I'm a very detailed person, and I knew every cost on every line item on every house. And at that point, it was different than today. We zoned the ground, we did the land development, we built the houses, we did everything in the whole process of selling homes. But I couldn't control that one line item of interest. And in the bad times, you can go out of business. And in 1981, interest rates prime was 18%. And we were selling homes at 30-year fixed-rate mortgages at 13.5%, and nobody could afford to buy them. And I sat there and said, in effect, I'm carrying models, I'm carrying land, I'm carrying speculative houses that I've built, and I said, this model is wrong, and I need to change that.
And so in 1984, you started your own business.
I started this company in a shared office space with a part-time secretary that I like to say I paid by the quarter hour. And we've built the company up one person at a time since that opening of that company, which is May 31st, 1984.
And Gary, you have a fairly prescriptive way of thinking about how you spend your time and your energy.
And I talk a lot about a third, a third, a third. And the first third is always family. And the second third is business. And that's because we all spend so much of our lives in our business that we need to make sure that we get up every day and we love what we're doing. And I truly love what I'm doing. But that third, that last third, my dad, I always talk about my dad because my dad taught me about what's important in life, about reputation. And he said to me, Gary, you take a third of your life and you help others any way you can. What I like to say is if I can help someone reach their dreams sooner than they otherwise can reach it, then I've done something special with my life. And my dad said, when you get to be older, which is where I am now, that thanks that comes from some of the younger people that take my class or talk to me, that I mentor, and go out, and whether they do something exactly as they thought or I've helped them decide what will make their life the happiest, I'm as proud about that third of my life as I am with my family, of course, and then with my business.
Gary, you've said nothing's more important than reputation. What does that mean to you?
I don't think I could have ever done some of the things I've done if it wasn't because of reputation. You know, Warren Buffett said, you know, it takes your entire life to build up a good reputation and 1 minute to lose it. When you are looking to raise equity, the reason that at this point in my career, we're basically have an unlimited amount of equity of people and institutions that wish to invest with us. But it's because of that reputation. I always give this story that I was once in a restaurant just a few years ago, and an older gentleman, 20 years older than me, a very successful real estate developer, and I'm some young kid, scared stiff, trying to go out there and build my first housing project. And he came over to me in the restaurant a couple of years ago, so I'm going to be 68, so he's 88 years old. And he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he says, "Gary, I hear you're doing very well, and I'm really proud of you. But more important, I hear that you're a really good man, and that's what's important." And I tell people, it's good to be a good businessman, but first you have to be a good man.
Gary, take us back to 1984. What advice would you give yourself? And then what advice would you give to someone else who's looking to hang their own flag and be an entrepreneur like you?
I think that they could be as successful starting today as I did in 1984. Things are more complex, but it's no different. But you have to be educated in what you're trying to sell. I say there's 3 things you need in order to be able to go out there, raise money, and put a deal together. You could either have all 3 of those expertise yourself, or it could be 3 people, each with one of those 3. One is you need to have the expertise in the field that you're actually telling your investors to invest with you. I mean, if I went out and said I want to build a warehouse, and I've always wanted to build a warehouse, but I've never built a warehouse before, I don't think any of my investors would have invested with me. So someone has to have that expertise to be able to say, I'm going to take this property. Whether it's a shopping center that you're going to renovate and expand and remodel, or whether it's a 10-unit apartment building and you're going to fix the hallways and you're going to redo the kitchens and the baths and you're going to light it and make it safer and you're going to increase the rents. The concept is all the same, but you have to have the expertise by working and being able to take that expertise. That's number 1. Number 2, someone has to obtain the bank loan. Someone has to be able to sign on it. Even though there might be 2 or 3 partners together in the back end, the sponsorship group together, one has to have the ability to get that loan. And the third part is someone has to be able to raise the equity. Now, I was very fortunate. When I started, I had all 3 of those important parts of the puzzle. But I see many times 2 or 3 people save money, come together, and together they end up putting those 3 different parts together. So I say to someone, if you have that expertise and you go out there. The other part, though, is you have to understand if you wish to take that risk, that stress of putting it together, because that's not what's important in life. When I talk and when I teach and when I tell my kids is that I hope that you get up every day of your life as I do, and you love that day, that you check it off as a day in your life that's one of those special days. And everybody has a different tolerance for risk and a different ability to put things together. What you have to do is you have to find that place that allows you, hopefully, to get up every day as I do without an alarm and look forward to that next day of your life.